thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking how to go from your PICO question to writing your protocol. And I'm Melissa Brand. I'm one of the librarians here at Lewis Library. So by the end of the session, you should be able to write down your research question to PICO elements. That might be, going over things you already know, but that's where we're going to start. Translating that question to the eligibility criteria and identifying key components of your review protocol. So what is a review protocol? Have any of you ever helped or thought about doing a systematic review or a scoping review? And do you know what a protocol is? Okay, so a protocol is like your guideline that you should be writing up before you start those reviews. It's a structured, detailed plan for how your review will be conducted. It needs to be written before you do any of your searching or collect your data. So it's going to be a book of rules, basically, that everyone in your group is going to follow when they're going through your review so that everyone's on the same page. It's going to help make sure you stay consistent and transparent. And it's going to make it where the review is able to be reproducible. So when you're done writing a review, you should be able to hand it to someone who knows nothing about your topic, like me, and I should be able to follow your steps and get the same results. So why would you want to write a review outside of it being helpful? It's going to help you prevent scope creep. So if your question gets too unruly, it's going to create a lot of extra work for you. So the protocol is really going to help rein it in together. Because with these reviews, you'll want to collect all of your results, right? So if your scope gets too broad and you end up with 10,000 results and you have to go through all of them, that's going to be a bit much. It's also going to reduce your bias and increase the consistency. And it's going to help you save time when you're going to write your actual manuscript because your methods will basically already be written and documented. And it's required or at least recommended by a lot of journals. It'll be helpful when you're looking to publish. So when you're getting ready to do all this, you're going to want to start with your question. So while topics are broad and often general, your question should be focused and answerable. So sometimes I get people come into my office and they're like, I want to do my review on this. And it's like 5 minutes of them talking to describe what they want their review to be. It should really be able to be summed up in that one question, what you're looking for, what you're trying to find, all of that. So a strong, well-defined question is going to guide your entire review. So today we're going to be talking about the PICO framework, but you can really use any framework you like. There's like SPICE or SPIDER. It really depends on your topic. You might already know. The P is going to be for population. Who are we looking at? What problem are we examining? I is going to be for intervention. So what therapy or intervention is being evaluated? C, comparison. And then O for outcome. So we have an example PICO question here. Among adults with hypertension, do telehealth interventions compared with usual care improve medication adherence? So for this, our population is going to be adults with hypertension. Our intervention that we're trying to look at is telehealth. And we're comparing that to usual care. So if they went to see a doctor in person. And our outcome we're hoping to see is something about medication adherence. So once you have your question and it's easily broken down in that framework, you'll be able to start writing your review or your protocol. And so a well-structured protocol should include some of the following key elements to ensure transparency, consistency, and make sure you're keeping that rigor through the entire process. So you'll have the background, then you'll have your question that you already worked on, so that will be ready to go, as well as any eligibility criteria, your search strategy, a screening plan, and any data you plan on extracting. So when writing your background, it's really just going to be, what do you already know about this topic? Why is this review needed? Are there any gaps in this topic or information you're looking at? So you're just justifying why you're doing this. Then you're going to document your question. So you already will have your question. You can include your PICO framework in this section. You'll want to define any of your key terms. And then since you already have your question, you'll know your eligibility criteria. So your inclusion, that's what has to be present in these reviews or articles. Your exclusion, that's what can't be included. right? So by clearly defining these criteria, you're going to set boundaries for your review that everyone on your team is going to know to follow. So if we use our example PICO question from earlier, we're going to want to include any reviews or studies about adults, so anyone over 18 with hypertension, telehealth programs, and we've decided to only look at randomized controlled trials. So based on that, anything we're going to exclude is individuals under 18 or not with hypertension. So children with hypertension, they're out, we don't care about them, or adults that don't have hypertension, they're also out. As well as anything that's not telehealth. So if they're doing only pharmacy interventions or print material, we're going to exclude that review as well, or study. As well as anything non-RCT. So your narrative reviews, your case reports, any of that is out. So when you get to the search strategy portion, this is just your plan. Where are you going to search? You should look at a minimum of 3 different databases, and those databases are going to depend varying on your topic. You should know your keywords that you're going to be looking at and your subject headings. So subject headings are kind of like specialized vocabulary, depending on what database you're using. PubMed will use like MESH, medical subject headings. You'll also want to know what limits and filters you're going to want to add in. So do you only want to look at things from the last 5 years? Do you only want to look at things in English? Do you only want to look at studies done in America? These are all things you're going to have to decide on in advance and document that. And along with that, you're going to want to document how you plan on documenting everything. So who's running the searches? Who's going to get the results? How you're going to document which results were pulled, all of that. So here are some common databases I see used on the different reviews people have asked me about. PubMed, CINAHL, Embase, PsycInfo, Scopus, Web of Science. And again, you don't have to use all of these. You don't have to use any of these if you don't want to. But if you ever need help deciding which database maybe works for your topic, you can always ask the library for help. We'll help you identify some, as well as how to search in them if you're unsure. Okay, then you're going to talk about how you're selecting these studies, right? So you already have your eligibility and ineligibility criteria. So the typical screening process is going to go through every review twice. Well, not every review, but there's 2 steps to the screening process. The first one is going to be your title abstract screening. So you're just going to look at the title and abstracts of all your results and decide if they fit or don't fit. And then once you found the ones that fit that cycle, you'll go into the full text review, and so you'll have to read through the whole study or article to decide if it works for you. While you're doing all this, you're going to want to document why you're excluding them. This one wasn't about adults with hypertension. This one wasn't an RCT. You're going to want all of that documented. And so it's a lot of work when you're doing these reviews. So again, when you're documenting your screening plan, you're going to want to talk about what your process is going to be if you're going to follow that regular process of doing the title abstract screening and then the full text. You're going to want to talk about how many reviewers you have and how many you want to look at each article. So at least 2 independent reviewers are going to need to look at the articles at each stage. Preferably there's a 3rd person that's there to be a tiebreaker. And so if you have a team of 4, maybe 2 people do the title abstract screening, maybe 2 do the full text. Maybe everyone does everything until it's all knocked out. You decide that up front. Again, everyone's going to want to document why they're excluding anything. It's going to help you prepare your Prisma flowchart when you're writing up your manuscript. And then, are you going to use any screening tools or software to make it more efficient? So a lot of times I'll recommend Covidence. If you're not familiar with that, it kind of works like a dating app. Your article will be pulled up, the title abstract, you're like, yes, swipe left, right. I don't think it's actually swiping. I think it's like a green check mark and a red X. But you'll just work your way through it, and it will show you this one's been reviewed by person A, or person A has reviewed 50 of them, person B has reviewed the same 50, and these ones need a tiebreaker. It will document all that for you. So if you're interested in that, that's a thing you'll have to reach out to the library to get access to. Then you'll be talking about what data you want to collect. Do you want to pull the study characteristics? So the author, the year, the country, what study design they used, maybe the population they talked about, or you can also pull the themes or the outcomes. So primary and secondary outcomes, what key findings there were. And there's additional elements you can pull out as well. So like the risk of bias indicators. Maybe you're reading through this article and you're like, something is off here. You'll want to go ahead and document that. Maybe the methods they use don't seem quite right, or maybe there's a conflict of interest with the funding sources. All of that stuff you're going to want to document as you're going through your studies. That's the main parts of writing the protocol. It is a lot, but there are some tools and resources that can help you. So we have this Prisma. There is Prisma P. It's a set of reporting guidelines for protocols. So this is set up in a checklist format. So you can pull it up and work your way through it. It's going to tell you each thing you need for each step along the way. This one is widely used. There are also JDI resources, which is step-by-step guidance. This is a more structured template. And it's going to be really good for scoping reviews. And then there's Cochrane resources. So this is going to be the gold standard for systematic reviews. So because it's that gold standard, it's very rigorous and detail-oriented. You're really going to want to pay attention and follow exactly through what that says, if that's the route you choose to go. And none of them are better than any other, so it's really just your preference. So once you've done all this work to write up your protocol, what do you do with it? Just share it among your group? You can do that. You should probably also do that, but you need to register it as well. So you have a couple options on where to register it. Here's Prospero. It's going to be an international database for health-related systematic reviews. They will only take like structured protocols, and it's not going to be for every review type. There's also Open Science Framework. This is going to be a little bit more flexible and open. It's going to accept a lot of review types, and it's a good alternative if Prospero doesn't fit what you're doing. There are more options. These are just two of the main ones. Why do you want to register it? So this is basically, when you're registering your protocol, it's like calling dibs. You're like, I'm going to talk about hypertension and telehealth. You maybe do something else. So it's going to help avoid multiple teams working on the same project unknowingly. The librarians and I were working on a scoping review. We picked our topic, we were moving forward, we checked, no one registered a protocol on it. A month into starting this process, an article came out. So we could have saved ourselves some time if that person or that team had maybe registered their protocol. Not to say if someone's doing the same topic as you that you can't do it, but you need to have something new to say on it. We don't need 10 articles all saying the same thing. It's also going to make you more transparent because these documents are publicly available. It's going to enhance your credibility and methodology clarity, and it's going to help establish your research intent. So that's going to reduce any post hoc changes or selective reporting. So you're working through all the things you found. You can't be like, oh, well, you know, I saw these things. Maybe we should write about that instead because you've already declared this is how we're going to do it. This is what we're looking for. It's going to strengthen your publication potential. So a lot of the journals are going to prefer that you have a registered protocol. It's going to show to them that you're dedicated to following the best practices, right? You've done all the steps to try to make your review as good as possible. So some of the common mistakes we'll see with these reviews or protocols is if you make your question too broad. If your question's too broad, you'll get a lot of results when you're conducting your searches, and that's just going to increase the time. So you don't want to go through 10,000 different things to decide if they fit what you're doing or not. So the more specific it is, hopefully the less you'll see, and it'll be slightly easier. It's still going to be a lot of work, but. And then if you're vague about your inclusion criteria, that makes it There should be no gray areas when people are going through these, right? They should be like, yes, no, it should be easy to identify what's going to be included and not. And then, skipping the protocol step, that's a mistake, as well as not documenting why you're making your choices, why things are being excluded, why you only want to include studies from the last 5 years, all of that. So some of the tips for success will be if you start with one of those frameworks, that's going to help you create your question in a structure that will be easy to follow through the rest of your protocol. Also, if you find a template early on. So I'll send out a handout or a little cheat sheet thing. It's going to have some templates linked in it, but you can also just search for templates, right? So finding one of those will make it easy. Some of them are as easy as you plug in your different, like it's like, here's the background. It should include this, this, and this, and you just go ahead and add that in. And then right while you're planning, I don't know if you want to do this, you're sitting with your group and you're coming up with all these grand plans, but when it comes to writing it down, maybe we don't quite remember what we decided. So if you're writing as you go, that's going to be really helpful, as well as asking for help. So if you don't know something, there's probably someone who can answer your question. If it's the library or your advisor, don't be afraid to ask. And the library can support you along the way when you're working on these, so we can help you develop your search strategy if you're having trouble coming up with those keywords or putting them together into search strings. We can help you find which databases you want to use, as well as give you feedback on your protocol, help you with any citation tools, so like EndNote. Again, if you want to use Covidence or something like that, we can help you get access to that or walk you through how to use it. So that's it. I'd appreciate if you take this survey. And do you have any questions? Yes.
I know it may vary, but is there like a typical length that a protocol should be?
I would think as long as you're covering all the bases that you want to cover, every step along the way, maybe try to be concise within those sections. But I would say it probably can't be too long, as long as you're making sure to follow it.
I'd say maybe the average protocol is like 5 to 6 pages max. I haven't seen them be super long. What ends up getting linked for like systematic reviews and things tend to be your discussion and conclusions. And this is just your outline of how you're going to perform it. So there's some that are pretty short as well.
Yeah, I've seen some that are like 3 pages long, but they don't always go into detail on everything. Yes.
For your exclusion inclusion criteria, is it just based off of the research question you're trying to answer? Like, how specific do you need to go? For the example that you gave for the hypertension, and like you need to consider like the different drug classes that can treat hypertension. Like, how nitty gritty do you really need to go, or is that just based off of the question you have or previously established reports that have done this before?
It depends on what your specific question is. So if you're looking at a specific drug as your comparison or intervention, then you would have to exclude, it could be as easy as excluding anything that's not this one, right? So it depends on your topic.
So your systematic review is going to be much more like focused inclusion exclusion, and I think scoping reviews, since they're like broader in general, you might have less because you're trying to figure out or answer a broad question or questions. So it all depends on the scope of your project. But you do need to lay them out there, because if you don't, then it causes lots of confusion later and can introduce bias. So if you don't talk about like population, like we're not doing children, what happens when you get a paper that is a randomized controlled trial that has children as well as adults? Do you use it? Do you not? So you need to start thinking through some of those implications. And then make sure that you document that, so then you don't later say, well, this looks like it's a really good article. Well, you said you were going to exclude it, so then exclude it. The protocol is all about keeping your biases much to a minimum as possible.
Yes.
For this type of research, would we need maybe like a PI or someone to like supervise us, or is this something that students can just do like as a group amongst each other and like get support from, say, y'all librarians, and then submit it to a journal? Like, do we need an official PI, I guess, to supervise our topic if they may not be interested in that topic?
No, you don't need an official PI. You can as a group do this. Like we have a student assistant working in the library right now. She's got a student group. They're working through a review. She has done a review with a PI before, so you know, it depends a little bit on how comfortable you would be doing that, but you could definitely do it without one.
I think just making sure you know what your limitations are as a student and as your student group. I talked to some students sometime and he's like, well, I don't know if I should do like a scoping review or just a narrative review. And it's like, okay, how much free time do you have now? And is this something that you want to be looking at for the next 18 months in your free time? And if the answer is yes, because you're really excited about the topic, like go for it. And if not, then maybe choose a different kind of review.
We get a lot of people come in and they don't quite understand how long it's going to take to do some of these reviews. Well, I have a couple months free. I'd like to do this systematic review, thanks.
The average, the last time that we were in classes about systematic scoping reviews, any of your big evidence synthesis, the average is now 12 to 18 months from the beginning to completion, and that's not including publishing. That's just finishing the review. Because you're looking at thousands for your abstract screening, and then sometimes hundreds for your full text screening. That means every single one that gets to that full text, you're reading every single paper. And then it gets to a very small subset. So it's a lot of work.
And you've got other things going on in your life, so you can't just sit here 40 hours a week going through these articles.
But you can totally do it by yourself. Like, just know the workload.
On that cheat sheet guide thing I'm going to send out to everyone, it does also have some resources that the library has available that can walk you through it. We have a library guide on how to do these reviews, or maybe choosing the right kind of review for you, as well as I think Kayleen's class about choosing the right review will be online soon if it's not already.
Yeah, it's already online. So if you want to go back to which review is right for you, my colleague and I, Charlotte, went through 6 different review types, from your narrative review all the way up to your systematic meta-analysis umbrella review. So it'll give you a little more information on what resources, whether it's time and a team, all of that might help you decide on what kind of review you would like. And you can find that on our YouTube channel, or just let me know and I'm happy to send it to your email as well.
We do have some more upcoming sessions in this review series. There's going to be one on advanced searching. So that might be important if you're trying to undertake one of these reviews, as well as data extraction tools.
And I'll be in both of those, so come back and we can be friends.